Our market is continuing to shift. Prices are coming down. Demand is coming down. However, our inventory is also coming down. But there's a section of our market that may bring more inventory to the market, and that is short-term rentals. Now, it's no secret that for those living close to a short-term rental, they can be somewhat of a nuisance. Now, that's not to say that they all are, but you and I both know that we are more apt to hear about the bad than the good. First, let's take a look at how we got here with short-term rentals. But stick with me because we are going to talk about how this is going to change. Now, the Airbnb style rentals were actually not allowed in many cities before 2016. But that year, state legislators passed a law preventing local governments from regulating short-term rentals, and their numbers skyrocketed. According to a recent study on the city's tight housing market, short-term rentals make up about a third of the homes that are vacant in Scottsdale. On September 24th of 2022, state lawmakers were finally able to do something about these, when a new state law went into effect that allows cities and towns to require short-term rental licensing. This would also allow them to revoke this license should certain circumstances occur. Tempe, Scottsdale, Mesa, Paradise Valley, Goodyear, and Peoria, officials are at different stages of adopting some of these regulations, but the major regulatory components are pretty similar across the board. Here are some of the guidelines. Rental owners must get licensed with their city and pay a fee of up to $250. This will allow local governments to effectively monitor and map the properties for the first time since 2016. Permits can be revoked if a court finds 3 separate violations occurred within a 12-month period, or if one major violation, like allowing an event-style party, takes place. Background checks are required for the guests who book the stay to ensure they have not been convicted of a serious crime, including sex offenses. Sex offenders also can't operate a rental property. Property owners must notify nearby neighbors that they are running a short-term rental and provide a contact number for someone who can respond to resident complaints 24/7. A sales tax license and proof of liability insurance are required for local permitting. Just something to note about the city of Scottsdale. I was in a meeting with the city of Scottsdale about short-term rentals where they were explaining kind of all of the ins and outs of that. And for the Scottsdale market, the taxes for a short-term rental are 14.2%. And then if you turn it into a long-term rental, it drops significantly from there. Now, there are a few other minor rules that are allowed by state law. And a lot of this will allow the local authorities to make sure that these properties are maintaining the safety and zoning requirements, like regular pest control. And officials can now require that property owners use a license number in all of their online advertising. Now, I know some people might think that, well, some of these short-term rental owners are just not going to get a license and they're going to continue advertising their property and continue renting their property out and just skirt around this requirement. Well, the reality is that if they go to an Airbnb or a VRBO to list their property, these companies are going to know that this license number is required and they're not going to advertise these properties. And if they're not advertising there, the likelihood of them getting bookings is not great. Now, I did a video a few months back about the major laws that were changing as it pertains to short-term rentals. And here are the few comments that I got. Thomas said, "Thanks for the informative video. As a wannabe first-time homebuyer, it's incredibly annoying how all the short-term rentals reduce the number of homes available to homebuyers. It's giving priority to tourist, convenient lodging at the expense of the locals." And Rachel said, "It's about time. I'm so angry at how these people buy these houses that sit empty for these rentals. My family has been on the sidelines for years trying to buy a house." First of all, thank you guys for your comments. I love reading them and talking with you through these comment sections. I love it even more when you call me, and that's when it's really fun. So here's what you need to know about what's happening currently for our short-term rental market. Short-term rentals are extremely popular and important for tourism. Do we have a lot? Yes. And over the past few years, these have been booked solid. However, just like the housing market, the rental market is starting to shift, not only for short-term rentals, also for long-term rentals. As inflation continues to be a problem and talks of a recession are still looming, what happens to people when it comes to tourism? They just don't travel as much. And then what happens? This leads to vacancies. In the first half of every year in the Phoenix market, we have an influx of visitors for our weather as well as all of our events. This is when so many of these short-term rentals are fully booked. I can tell you over the last few years, trying to find my clients short-term rentals has been extremely challenging. They were almost non-existent. And over the past few years, when interest rates were low, many people decided to get into the short-term rental business. But with all of these new regulations and taxes, this is starting to eat into the profit. But what eats into profit even more? Vacancies. I have heard some short-term rental owners that have been in it for a long time that we have reached a point of oversaturation, which could very well be true, especially considering what our market conditions are right now. What I think many of these short-term rental owners are doing is they're betting on the fact that Arizona has the Super Bowl, and we will see an influx of more tourists than we do normally, which is already a lot. So I wanted to take a look for myself. I wanted to see if these short-term rentals were all booked, and I was shocked. I was able to find homes in Scottsdale and in Phoenix available, but not just available. I saw multiple homes with price reductions. And these were not just the larger, higher priced short-term rentals. This was across the board, in all sizes and in all price ranges. These homes were all in great locations and had great amenities, and they were all available in January. So what does this mean, and why am I telling you this? Well, I would not be surprised if some of these homes, if they are still available in January, come to the market either as a long-term rental or as a sale. This will increase our inventory and put further downward pressure on our pricing. Here in Arizona, I know many vividly remember what 2008 was like when our housing market crashed. Tourism was one of our biggest employment sectors. And just as housing crashed, tourism crashed. The good news is the Arizona job landscape is completely different this time around. We are currently sitting at 3.7% unemployment, which is still below where we were before the pandemic, which was at 5%. So although we are seeing prices come down, we are not falling off the cliff, and we are nowhere near 2007. This does not change the fact that if in the beginning of the year we see our normal uptick in inventory and the short-term rentals that were not rented also hit the market, we will see an influx of inventory, which would have a larger effect on our home prices. So buyers, keep your eyes on those interest rates. And if you're waiting for 2023 to buy, those first few months could show signs of increased inventory, which would affect our prices. But keep in mind, this is also when we see an uptick in our demand. So some of these homes could get purchased rather quickly, especially those homes that have been updated. And I would not be surprised if I see some of those short-term rentals being sold fully furnished, which is always a great thing for people looking for second homes. If you'd like to see where else a buyer can get a great deal on a home, take a look at this video right here where I talk all about the iBuyers and what they are doing to our Arizona market. If I can answer any questions for you, please feel free to reach out. As always, I thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.